So in 2021, I did some pretty crazy things, including some challenges like my 100-kilometer ski challenge for mental health, ski 100 kilometers in a day with basically no training. I did a 30-day running challenge, but what I said I was proud of for myself in 2021 was like the effort I put in, the growth that I had mentally, like things like that, rather than specific results. And I think that's what's really important when it comes to setting goals, especially when it comes to fitness or sport. And that's what I want to talk a lot about today. It is officially 2022. I'm still writing 2020 on papers. I don't know about you guys. I want to talk about how we can set more sustainable goals. And so hopefully you can make all your goals happen in 2022. Okay, so first I'm going to share what I did on New Year's Eve to kind of reflect on the past year, and then what I did to kind of look ahead. So what I did was I basically wrote, things that I was proud of myself in 2021. So some of those things were like my effort at the track, my consistency with creating, my ability to say no, the intentions that I had, just kind of, giving myself, props for the things that I did in 2021 and the way that I grew. Then I looked back and I said, what are things that I could have still improved in 2021? And then what I like to do also is based on the actions that I took in 2021, I wrote down kind of my top 5 values. I think our values really come from our actions. We could say we value something, but if our actions don't reflect it, then I think we're not necessarily valuing it. Then I like to look forward, and in 2022, I wrote down based on these things, things that I wanted to do. And these are, habits and ways that I wanted to live, and this aligned with some values that I then wrote down. And so what I did was, always take the extra step, make the hard decision, make myself proud. That feeling of pride and accomplishment is unmatched after you've put work in and all of a sudden you start to see it pay off. Commit to kindness, be more efficient with my time, prioritize presence, and focus on what really moves the needle. Those are some of the things that I had written down. And then based on that, I said in 2022, I will value focus, discipline, presence, diligence, and positivity. I'm just kind of writing down, these are some of the things and the words that are meaningful to me when it comes to my values in 2022. Whenever I'm making a decision, I want to say, I'm going to take that extra step, whether it's that extra step to do something kind and positive for someone else, taking that extra step and being diligent in my training and making sure I do every rep right and I pay attention, because I think that makes all the difference. So those are some things that I did, and then I wrote down some of my focuses, which is my training, my creating, and then connecting. And I think those are some of my top 3 words of focus. So now I want to talk a little bit about how to set those goals. And then how to break it down into actions. Don't know about you guys, but I love whiteboards. I love to just write ideas. I take a picture with my phone, then erase it. So what I did with my journal, you could totally do with a whiteboard and just go through and then take like pictures. So I like to look ahead at some of those long-term goals, maybe even past the year, and then basically break it down. So for those of you who don't know, I have been dealing with a shoulder rotator cuff tear that's kept me out of competing in CrossFit since 2019. So basically for 2 years. I'm gonna start just with those top goals, right? So I put return to competition over here, and then I broke it down into, okay, what do I need to do that? I need to do my shoulder rehab daily, and then we can even go further to say I need to be diligent and fully present in my rehab. So that means like every day I can't just speed through the rehab. It can't be like, oh, I just did this or whatever. It's like I need to be there and I need to really focus on doing it really well if I want my shoulder to be better and be able to return to competition. So from there, basically, I have a habit-based goal rather than a result-based goal. I now have something to focus on, being diligent and fully present in my rehab. And what I can do with that is give myself props every day when I do that. That's gonna give me that dopamine, the positive response, kind of a reward every day. And if you want to do some sort of reward system for yourself, totally fine. I think science has kind of shown that that can really help, is having some reward-based system. Even better, I won't dive into the specifics of science of this, but if you have like some sort of kind of almost like a lottery system, so maybe when you do all those habits every day, maybe spin a little wheel and it's like, okay, today, I reward myself with a little bit social media time or a show that I like to watch, or something that kind of gives you some dopamine, makes you happy, that you could do just to reward yourself. But either way, I think it's just giving yourself the props and being like, hey, I put in the effort today. So that's what I have there. So I'm gonna break down a very specific goal now. This year I have a challenge that I wanna use to motivate myself in training, and that is in 2022, I want to run a sub 6 mile followed by 300-pound squat in the same day. So for me, this is a goal that still aligns with my sport and that goal of returning to competition, because I can't set any goal with, like a snatch, because I can't go overhead right now, and that's kind of unknown. So I want to do something that's known to me and under my control. Of course, things might happen. I might, have something happen where I have to take a break off running or whatever it is. But right now, this is something that's within my control. And then I got asked the other day, someone said, do you have a specific date for that? Or like, how will you feel if you don't do that? And this is where I want to talk about the result-based goal. So this is the goal I have. And now if I break it down using the formula that I was showing you guys before, is I want to do this. So that means I need to follow a specific, training program. So I will share, like I'm gonna follow my normal, CrossFit program, my training for competition, but I am gonna put more emphasis into running. I've put a ton of emphasis, more emphasis over the past year into endurance in general. So keeping that going, and then adding a little bit more emphasis into squatting, because that's something I wasn't focusing on that much last year. So it's still aligning with those other goals. I'm not gonna change my whole training only to run and squat, because of course, like I said, I wanna still return to competition. And if I only work on running and squatting, I'll only be good at those things. And we all know the sport of CrossFit has more than that. So I'm gonna have a specific training plan that I follow, and I'm going to give 100% effort and consistency in my training sessions. You can see that here, but you probably can't read it because my writing is horrible. Now that I broke that down, what I'm gonna be proud of at the end of the year, if it comes down to me testing this out and I am a second off, or I'm 10 pounds off, or whatever that is, I did give 100% effort and consistency in my training sessions. That's what was within my control, and that's what I'm proud of. So of course, I motivated in my sessions to achieve this goal, but at the end of the day, it's putting in that work, that effort consistently, that I am gonna be the most proud of. And so that way, my whole happiness, my dopamine release in a way is not completely based off this result-based goal or performance-based goal. It's based off of the effort and the daily habits that I'm going to put in and the consistency of that. That's where I think a lot of people fall off with like resolutions, is they say, I have this, they don't have a specific plan to do that, and then they're not, cheering themselves on when they actually do the things every day, because maybe this could take me 2 or 3 or 10 years. I'm hoping not, but if it does, what's gonna push me through? It's gonna be like celebrating that I'm still putting in the effort. And if, something's not going right with that, I can look back and say, maybe I need a different training program or whatever. But if I gave that 100% effort, whatever was in my control, I'm proud of. The last thing that I want to talk about when it comes to setting goals, especially in fitness, is performance-based goals versus aesthetic-based goals. This is something that I talk about a lot, especially like on my TikTok, is especially with female athletes, and when it has to do with body image, it can be detrimental to kind of set those aesthetic-based goals, at least in my experience. Now, I don't like bodybuild, which is obviously an aesthetic-based sport. I know when I was early on into my fitness journey, training even for snowboarding, where all of a sudden I'm on Pinterest and I'm finding these dream bodies, and this person, I'm like, oh, I wanna look like that, and that person's not me. And you're not gonna be happier necessarily because you look a certain way. I think the healthiest path in fitness is finding something you truly enjoy doing, that every day leaves you feeling better. I know in sport that might not always be the case. There's gonna be days that you're not feeling that great, but you love the sport overall, and that's what you're putting in, or you love that, that end result and feeling of the pride and accomplishment of getting that done. But I think the healthiest thing in health and fitness is moving away maybe from an aesthetic-based goal to a performance-based goal. So feeling really strong and healthy, working out every day because of the energy it gives me and how much better I feel day to day. Maybe if you're a parent, maybe it's like playing with your kids. If you're, a teenager, maybe it's just, and you don't compete in a sport, it's just setting yourself up for a life of healthy living and a good base foundation of training and fitness. And maybe it is a strength-based goal. Maybe you're like, I want to squat 500 pounds. I want to squat 100 pounds, whatever that is. Or perhaps it is you are competing in sport, setting that performance-based goal rather than thinking you need to look a certain way. I think especially as a female athlete, we can get tied to, we need to look like this person to be the best athlete, and that's not the case. Actually, I think as an athlete in general, we get tied to, we need to look like this person to be the best athlete in our sport, and that is not the case. Everyone's body type is different, and if you're doing just the things to look like this person, you might not be doing the actual training that makes you perform like this person. Versus if you just chase that performance-based goals, I find you could perhaps even end up, with that look that you want or whatever it is, but it's not going to be as much of a concern for you, and you're actually going to do the work to perform well in your sport or your day-to-day or whatever that goal is. But yeah, I really hope that you guys have a great start to your 2022. Hit that subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Leave me a comment with what you're working towards in 2022, and I'm really looking forward to sharing my journey towards achieving some of these goals, my comeback in my sport. I think it's going to be an exciting year, so let's get after it together, and don't forget to go all in.